question for you. I know some Austrians still hold out faint hope that Israel Kirzner at NYU might get a Nobel before he dies. He's in his 90s, presumably for his work in the area of material discovery. I guess I'm curious, did you have Professor Kirzner during your years at NYU as a prof?
Yeah, so he wasn't teaching the PhD students any classes, but he was teaching a master's level history even on thought. So I took that. And it actually screwed things up with my fellowship that I was going to have to pay out of pocket for my econometrics class because I didn't realize they were so much of what the history of economic thought was not necessary. So that was something I was doing on the side for fun. And so, but yes, the answer, I did take that class and it was great. Yeah, okay. And the argument is that, which is somewhat plausible, that William Baumol gets the prize for his work on entrepreneurship. Baumol, he's written more books than most economics have. Our journals. I mean, that literally, wow, exaggeration. Okay, so he was also an plus guy. So if the claim is if he wins it, they can't not give it to Kirzner. Okay. So they're both pretty old, so we'll see. But I guess, yeah, it would be shocking if you guys. I don't think it's completely Mr. Austrians pulled out. Okay, well, I'll leave everybody with this quote then from Murray Rothbard. What he had to say, writing in Human Events back in the day. Murray wrote for everything, National Review, two name it. So he had this to say about Friedrich Hayek winning the Nobel in '74. He said, it comes as a surprise on two counts. Not only because all the previous prizes in economics have gone to left liberals and opponents of the free market, but also because they've gone uniformly to economists who transformed the discipline into exquisite science, filled with mathematical jargon and unrealistic models that then used to criticize the free enterprise system and attempt to plan the economy by the central government. F.A. Hayek is not only the leading free-market economist, he has also led the way to tackling the mathematical models and the planning pretensions of the would-be scientists. So anyway, Murray was thrilled, and I know a lot of people consider his thesis as Nobel in some ways. But Bob, I guess I'll have to leave it with that and wait for the day when you and Peter Klein and Per Vineland are seeing that. I hope to see that day. So I want to thank everybody for joining us. Bob, thank you for your time. Ladies and gentlemen, have a great weekend.
Check back next week for a new episode of the Imagine Podcast. In the meantime, you can find more content like this at Mises.org.
Himself and Murray Rothbard, and to all of you who support this wonderful organization on this fine and festive occasion. So, ladies and gentlemen, after 50 years on the job, that's me, 50 years on the job, it is a dull journalist who has not stumbled across even one sturdy technical truth. And I think I found mine. It is this: money is not humanity's best subject. Money is not humanity's best subject. Maybe our financial genome is missing. So for the evidence of this humble conjecture is stamped in the cyclical record for all to see, and you will recognize it right. As investors, we tend to buy high and sell low rather than the other way around. As lenders and borrowers, we tend to overdo it in the boom and underdo it in the predictable succeed and bust, and we are pro-cyclical creatures. It's just the way we are. And we are this way in constitutional monarchies and republics, and democracies, statism, capitalism. That's just who we are. So theorists talk about efficient markets. They assume rational investors and costless transactions and prices that instantly incorporate every scrap of available information. You might as well talk about efficient romance as efficient markets. Yes, there do exist the steely-eyed moneymakers who build wealth by adapting to circumstances and learning from mistakes. They do exist. But if the average investor learns from one cycle to the next, it's news to me. For all I can see, they, that is we, keep stepping on the same wakes. So the very last thing our fallible species needs is a monetary system that leads us into temptation. Yet that is precisely the system in place. A dozen years of suppressed interest rates have misdirected money, waylaid judgments, and turned the switch marked financial gravity to the off position. You've heard and read stories about UFOs? No, that's not UFO. They are stocks and bonds and cryptos and stuff floating in air. So I am going to tell you in the 4 hours given to me this evening, I mean to tell you about, interest rates. Oh, my publication is named Grant's Interest Rate Observer, and I am in clover because interest rates were barely perceptible. But now there's something to watch. So if I seem a little bit manic, it's because my business model has been validated. So my plan is to talk about the source of the zero gravitational environment we live in. I have touched on the nature of the human material that does the investing. I'm going to project, or rather suggest to you, that the Fed is the agent of entrapment. That interest rates and their absence has been key to the everything bubble. I'm going to touch on the consequences of this experiment. I'm going to mention the hypothetical, theoretical insolvency of the Federal Reserve. Let's see what else. I'm going to delve into the extraordinary losses in the financial markets, especially bond market losses, unseen in 4,000 years. And I'm going to propose a solution to these difficulties. think nothing of it, madam. All right, so, an interest rate is a price. It's most think of it as the price of a loan. It is that, but it is more, to borrow from the title of a new book by Edward Chancellor. In the super book, interest rate is the price of time. It's the price of time. So Jeff Bezos knew something about the human condition when he created Amazon Prime. What he was banking on was the people's impatience, their impetuosity. When we want something, we want it now. Murray Rothbard described this condition in a few short, well-chosen words, and they were this. So future satisfactions are always at a discount compared to present satisfactions. So you pay less for something that's promised than something you possess. So you hear it said that the rate of interest discounts expected future cash flows. We all say, yes, yeah, quite true. But the words are somewhat okay. So what does that mean? It means that interest rates connect the future with the present. They adjust an investor's expectation of the timing of tomorrow's rewards. So very low rates of interest seem to reel those nuggets into the present. And very high rates of interest seem rather to push them further out over the horizon. So imagine, you are minding your business when your financial planner calls and says, I have a stock for you. The stock is called Uber. Some years ago, and Uber is going to revolutionize the taxi cab business. And you happen to be a student of Graham and Dodd and a value investing. You say, well, what might this company called Uber be earning? Well, it says nothing just yet, but if you wait, in the fullness of time, it's going to earn the profits that its foresight and its vision have gifted it. That's what signifies that. Now, you have a choice. You can invest in that future profits, or you can take the here and now. If the here and now is priced at nothing, necessarily a 0% interest rate, you might be inclined to leave at the chance of getting in on the ground floor of a great thing that's going to happen, says he. But if the present day is offering you, say, 10% of treasury, you might be inclined to hang the phone. So that's what we mean by saying that this interest rates discount future cash flows. They calibrate our expectations about the future. If they're low enough, they kind of they subsidize fantasy, right? Where do you think this great levitation in tech stocks came from? Well, it came in one way from the objective improvement of technology. If you knew, that was one source of the levitation of tech stocks. But another source was the lack of competition in the here and now. When interest rates are pitched at nothing, the future looks ever so glistening. So interest rates, they are a thing, as I mentioned, and that thing is a very potent force. The book that you have perhaps not spent much time with by your bedside is called The History of Interest Rates by Sidney Homer and Richard Silla. And 2000 BC to the present, 4,000 years of interest rate history. It goes by in a flash. But I will compress that narrative for you in a few words. Interest rates have never been lower in 4,000 years than they have been in the past dozen. 0%. Actually, in some respects, was a high rate of interest because in 2020, as many as $17 trillion worth of fixed income securities were priced to yield in nominal terms, not adjusted for anything, less than nothing. So think about it. So you, as a lender, paid the borrower to accept your currency, Swiss francs, Japanese yen, Swedish krona, and so on, mostly European. But $17 trillion worth. So remember what Murray Rothbard said. He said that this would be impossible because future things were always priced lower than present things. And don't you remember the theories that were spun to explain the extraordinary, seemingly inexplicable phenomenon of negative nominal yields? People would say, yes, they are just where they ought to be because central banks are fighting the battle against deflation, against everyday low prices, which we abhor. America spends half of Saturday seeking out the things that central bankers want to stamp out. But facts are facts. 17 trillion is a lot of money, even if you say it fast, and that much money was devoted to paying people to take your money home. And so the question that we at Grant said, did interest rates fall or were they pushed? Is this extraordinary alignment of rates? Zero, slightly more than zero, less than zero. Is this a force of nature? Is it a turn in the history of financial affairs? Or is it just another manipulation by the thimble riggers at the Federal Reserve and the European Central Bank? And it went on for long enough that many people came to doubt the theory that central banks were behind this. But so how has this worked out, this experiments in extra low interest rates? Have you been reading the Wall Street Journal in recent weeks? And have you noticed, if so, have you noticed the line that precedes often that modifies the term treasury bond? That descriptor is super safe. It's super safe treasury securities. Well, here's the way that the super safe securities have comported themselves in the first 9 months of this year. Long investment grade bonds down 28.4%.
Not unless you're a celebrity or politician.
Over 12 months occurred in 1841 when states were defaulting on their debts, and that was only 22%, 22.9. So this was worse than 1841. In many respects, it was the worst in 228 years. And referring now to long-dated, indeed perpetual, English sovereign securities called gilts, G-I-L-T-S. And British consols, or these perpetuals, in the 9 months were down 37.4%. The preceding, the runner-up worst, occurred during the Napoleonic Wars, when the English Channel was a very, very fraught place. And the worst of that period, 1803, was down 23%. So this year, through 9 months, down 37%. During the Napoleonic War, darkness, down 23%. So in that case, the worst of 269 years. And unprecedented, too, is the tempo of the rise in bond yields, the fall in bond prices. Bond prices tend to trend over the course of generations. It's a unique feature of the fixed income security. From 1900 to about 1920, bond yields rose, and it took them 20 years to rise about 1 or 2 percentage points. Very, very slow rate of rise. The second generational occurrence in the rise of interest rates occurred from 1946 to 81, and it took from 1946 to 1956 for the bond yield to rise 1 percentage point. 10 years, 1 percentage point, from 2.25 to 3.25. So by way of contrast, in August of 2020, 10-year treasuries were priced to yield 1/2 of 1%. And recently they touched 4%. That's up eightfold in slightly less than 2 years. Never before seen. So the ferocity of this bear market, the speed of the decline in price and the rise of the yield is a new thing under the sun. And it, to me, it shines a bright light on the power of the central banks for ill, and on the snapback, the power of the snapback to reverse the evident error in monetary policy of these many years. So this business about the essential security of government debt, I want to treat you to the wisdom of a man named